Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Here's Your Craic podcast. Our guest today is Connor Martin, founder of the Essence Vault. Connor, thanks for coming on.
No problem, thanks for having me.
We usually just start off if you want to give a quick intro if people listening don't know who you are, don't know who the Essence Vault is, have been living under a rock, if you want to give us a quick intro.
Connor Martin, founder of the Essence Vault, D2C inspired fragrance brand, launched just before COVID, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I think you get that a lot now, the big brands launched before COVID and just absolutely blew up, but if you want to tell us a bit about how, where did it all start out for you, where did Essence Vault start, and how did you sort of become an entrepreneur, come into it,
I mean, the Essence Vault started I always loved fragrance, went to Liverpool for university, loved fragrance, couldn't afford it, and it Liverpool's very market orientated, so there's a lot of wee Saturday markets and stuff. A lot of them sold fragrances, but there would have been wee spray bottles, 3 for a £5, and as soon as you sprayed them, the smell died away. So sort of put the seed there, and then sort of as years went by, looked how to make it on YouTube and stuff like that, and could never get it right, so left it for a good couple of years, and then sort of got a wee bit of money and pulled it together and tried my hardest, failed again, then had to put it in a credit card.
And were you in uni at that time trying that out, or when?
A little bit. I would have bought a few things, but nothing ever would have came. I would have dropped it for 6 months and just continued with the day job, and then eventually it would have been, it was 2019, so I would have been 5 years, 24, 23.
Yeah.
It was Liverpool 5 years, moved back home because of skint, worked for a phone shop, managed to get a job over here, and then started scaling it.
I was listening to the podcast you were doing. You worked in EE for a while.
That's the one. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was good, but the end was a bit better.
Yeah.
I don't know about
it. So what was the first sort of when you started it off? How did you get the fragrance right? I think you started off in market stalls yourself, didn't you?
Yeah. So it would have been about. We launched in September 19, probably about February, March that year. Finally, sort of all the YouTube videos of how to make perfume, none of them are actually, I would swear they're made by perfumers themselves to put people off making fragrance. So eventually sort of took the initiative, put a few ingredients together, and eventually came out great. A few times it would have been very, very slimy, or it would have died straight away, and it's right, well, can't get it right. Eventually stuck at it, stuck about $6,000 on a credit card. Eventually got it, and it was sort of that was the first time it was really, I thought about giving it to other people at all. It was only ever for me not to have to buy it. But then it was I went into work sort of 4 p.m. that day, someone said, "Oh, you smell nice, what is it?" And then I was like, fuck, this is actually, am I allowed to swear? Sorry.
Yeah.
This has lasted all day, so maybe I'm onto something. And then sunk $6,000 on a credit card to buy some stock, and started off in markets. Again, even at that stage, it wasn't really supposed to be any more than that. It was just, Saturday market, the odd sort of every 2 weeks. The first one we actually went to was, we done candles and stuff as well at the very, very start. We've done it again now, but the perfumes were just on the side. I kind of thought, right, well, going through a Saturday market, everyone's selling candles, so I need to sell candles. And then literally full table this size, full of products, perfumes just in the corner, and everyone was only interested in the perfumes. So obviously went straight home and just tried to expand the range as much as possible, and carried on.
Is that normal? I know, I feel with most products, you're buying them from somewhere, and just distributing them out yourself. Is that normal for perfume brands to make them yourselves, or is that just something?
No, it's actually not. They most of them use they call white label or sort of wholesale sort of stuff, but naturally a lot of them stuff originate in China, and with fragrance, big things cruelty free, what's actually in it. The Chinese stuff was always pretty weak, so we had to source UK suppliers. Obviously they come with minimum order quantities and sort of a barrier to entry, really. We found a few really good suppliers that we still use today, and that's how we started. It was humble beginnings in the fact that we only, at each stage, it was only ever supposed to be that. There was no next step, or it was just Saturday markets. I think the first one we done £700, and I thought I was the fucking bee's knees. I was over the moon. Second one was up at Knott's Corner. sold £3.
I was actually going to ask you what markets.
Oh,
you like Ballymena Market at all?
It was, do you know naturally North Coast and Glens?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one.
A wee
that
bit
was
up
the-
market then.
That was the good one.
You're not out the back of the Seven Towers Leisure Centre.
No, we went up to Nuts Corner, and the community there is so tight. Like, we had to be up. I think we had to, obviously rang the guy the night before and stuff. He was like, right, you need to be there early if you want a good spot because it's your first time, blah blah.
Yeah.
Woke up at 3 a.m.
Nice.
Got up there and set up. You had to bring your own the canopy thing and all.
Yeah.
It broke. It was fucking like £800 as well.
Yeah,
Got the stall all set up, and we sold one wax melt that day. I was ready to pack it in then. It was.
And what was it that day? Was it just like maybe the customers there, or was it?
I think it's a bit of both, really, because the people go to Nuts Corner, they go there maybe they go twice a month, or so it's the same people. There's someone that sold perfume 2 rows past me, and we're selling it for like a £5, and it was the imported stuff from China or Europe or wherever. So our stuff was £10 for the small bottle, £20 for the big bottle. That was just so much more than what they were used to.
Yeah.
You got someone selling out of date Davidoff cold water down there for £3-4.
Yeah.
And we're selling our own stuff with at that stage it was shitty label and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think one girl even stopped with her kid and was like, "This smells like Kappas." Yeah.
Not what I want to hear. Like.
No, definitely not.
And like, what was that journey like then? Like, how did you progress from there? Like,
So from that one there, honestly, I actually did decide, look, I'm going to stop this. This is shite. It's put me off my job, and up all night making it. But we actually had one booked with naturally North Coast and Glens, and I already paid for it. It was more expensive than the other ones.
Yeah.
And had it booked, so I was like, right, I'll do one more, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I think within the first hour, I had to ring my dad to bring more stock because we had completely sold out within like 45 minutes, and it wasn't even open. It was supposed to open at like 11:30, and this was like 10:30.
Yeah.
And it was just like people coming through to have a nosy.
Was that all just word of mouth then that sort of happened, or did people know you were coming there and they came?
I think it was more like it was completely opposite to what I initially thought, because I went to the market thinking, right, I need to sell the same as everyone else, but I just need to do it slightly better. Whereas when the perfumes were there, no one else sold perfumes at them sort of markets, and that naturally North Coast is all like handmade, crafted stuff. So the fact that I was there, no one else was, and it was, it was interesting, and people were, with that sort of clientele, £20 was nothing to them. They give me fun.
Definitely like a different client. Like even you saying I probably wouldn't go to Knott's Corner, but if you were saying there was a market up on the North Coast, I would probably go to it over that. So it's probably a completely different clientele than like exactly the people you were probably after.
100%. Yeah. But everything sort of goes against the norm, because like if you think inspired fragrance, you actually do think Nuts Corner first.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, that's why I thought, Nuts Corner's on every Saturday, or Sunday, whatever, it's going to be mint. I'm really, really going to, that's all I need to do is one market a week, and I can do the day job, save up for a house, sort of thing. And then went £3, never again. But from then, obviously that was just before.
And how did that day finish up for you then? Like,
it was over 3 days. It was over 3 days, and I think we done about, I'm gonna say close to $3,000.
That's lethal. Like,
and that was like
from £3 to £3,000.
Yeah, that's mental. Like, and that's really was like, right, this is it. Like, I can definitely do this. But again, at that stage, it was just markets. It was like, even then, I was just researching different markets, even in England and stuff. And I was like, right, there's a really big one up at the Titanic Quarter once a year. And I was like, right, we need to get in there because I'll do $20,000 that weekend and blah, blah, blah. But it was still only, it was no website sort of thing.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast you were on, and you were sort of saying you didn't even realise you could start an e-com store, like you weren't really aware. Like, when did that start coming on?
It was a bit naive as well, but I remember, like, I was sort of smart enough to realise if you have a website, there's no way, like, people just don't randomly type in your URL and come on the site. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know Facebook ads. Every Facebook ad I seen was, like a dropship scams and people selling spinny helicopter things, wee toys. I thought that's all it was, unless you're a big, massive brand. And it was just, I think it was Ezra Firestone at that stage. He was big in Shopify, sort of teaching. I think I stumbled across a video of him, and he was like, "This is start up your Shopify store in 10 easy steps." I was like, right, fuck it, I'll do that. Set it up, and it was awful.
Yeah.
The site was drastic. Like, done that again. Even at that stage, it was just right. I'll have a website for when people come to the market and don't buy, they can go on the website later and buy. And people were doing that, like every Saturday, maybe get an extra £200-300 sales. Nothing the rest of the week, but it was £200-300 more than what we were getting at the markets as well. And then that Christmas, all the markets happened, and obviously March time, COVID happened. We started ecom seriously in about that sort of October, November time. And it was just purely influencer marketing. We found, like, sort of done a lot of research, watched a lot of YouTube videos, and it was all, you need to find someone with a following that's really sort of into the influencer, and it's, you know, they care about what they say. So I was like, right, Mrs. Hinch, everyone loves her to the point where they start their own Instagram pages, cleaning and that sort of thing. So we reached out to one of, like, the wannabe Mrs. Hinch, is about 4,000, 5,000 followers, sent her 2 bottles, and 5 days later, no sales at all. I thought, right, fuck it, you know, it doesn't work, whatever. And then one Friday night, it was just ding, ding, ding. It was like sale coming through. Looked at it. I was like, fuck, right. I went straight in. Like, this is 11:30 at night. Boxer shorts and making the perfume for that order. And then literally back into bed. Went again. And like that night, over the course of about half 10 to about 1:30, we'd done about 750 quid. Just in the website from that one free post that we didn't pay the influencer either. At that stage, no one really got paid.
And like, how long were you just like making it in your house for? Like, before, like, how long was that sustainable before?
We done it from probably the first when the online got big. Well, put it this way: March, COVID hit. That's when it boomed. We had just moved into sort of our first warehouse. Yeah, you wouldn't really call it a warehouse. It was like 3 office rooms put together, sort of thing. You know. But yeah, done that all myself, and then about January, February time, moved in there. At this stage, we maybe had, I think we had 2 staff, and then COVID hit. At that stage, we were doing a bit of Facebook ads, massive influencers. Like, we were doing, I would get up about, at that stage, about 5:30, 6, message 20 influencers, and then when they responded throughout the day, you know, get your address and blah, blah, send it out. So at that stage, we were doing about 20 a day influencers, about £100 a day on Facebook ads. All made on Canva, 2 minutes. Yeah, embarrassing.
Still a lot of people doing now though. We Canva, like,
yeah. Canva's a lot better now. It used to just be like a shitty transparent PNG bottle on a white background with 20% off in the corner. But and then March happened. We shut for 3-4 days. Got an Amazon parcel through the post and realised, fuck, actually online brands can still operate and stuff, because it was all very hidden and what brands could open if you had to be necessities and stuff like that. Opened the website on the 5th day, sent an email out, and we had done more sales in the last 3 months put together. And had to hire all my friends and family who were luckily on furlough.
Yeah, I suppose it was good timing in terms of, like, people were off, you could bring them in. Like.
Yeah, but it was like so worrying at that stage, because, you know, Boris Johnson coming on saying you can't be within 2 meters of someone, and going, who the fuck's going to buy perfume? You can't be close to anyone. But no, people were in their houses spending money on nothing. So.
That's so weird though, is when you even think of, like, stuck in the house, would you really be thinking, fuck, I need to be smelling good around the house, like? Do you know what I mean?
It's nuts, like, because the only people working at the very early stage was nurses. Do you know, no one, nurses and delivery drivers, no one else was working. So like, even now you think, how did that work? But I think it was just Facebook ads became, like, if CPMs, I remember start of COVID was 60p, and that's unheard of on Facebook. It's unheard of anywhere, but Facebook was about, I'd say average CPM of about 9 quid. So we were getting like 20 times, 30 times the amount of customers for our pound, and that's obviously why I was like, our CPA at a stage was like 150. It was mental.
Fucking hell.
Mental.
Yeah, I suppose, like, brands just weren't spending as well. Like,
everyone stopped.
The budget, like. Yeah. But, like, the influencer stuff's interesting. Like, was it all, like, when did it go from, like, say, gifted to paid? Like, was it quick? Did you quickly cop on to, like?
It's a bit like a roller coaster, because we went gifted for a while over COVID, especially. There were so many more influencers, like, cropping up, and within days they had 20,000 followers, 30,000 followers. So we were still doing gifted because they weren't doing anything with their time anyway. And then as the sort of second lockdown shut, then all of a sudden the ones we were getting for free are now £700 for a post, and you're going, wind your neck in. But we sort of thought, right, well, we're a big brand now, like 40 staff. Let's try the Love Island people. One of our competitors, Carfume, they would have done that. Every Love Island person straight away, as soon as they left the villa, was advertising this. So we thought, fuck it, well, we need to do this. I think it was Katie McDermott, massive Love Island influencer.
This is back when like Love Island was booming as well. Like they gotta just sort of fuck off. Like
paid her, I think, 12 grand. Fuck, not a single sale.
Fuck off.
One.
See, that's interesting as well, because like the whole like I think recently there's influencers like the like JAQ and Sue and stuff been criticised. I think was she dropped from. It wasn't Boohoo, but it was should basically like a contract to one of the with them, and then they actually looked into like her followers and were like the engagement's not right for the amount of followers you have here, like but like that's wild. I think especially with the influencer market and stuff, even now, like I know from work like reaching out to influencers and stuff, and you're like
we don't do any paid anymore either, so that's what I mean. Like it was like a roller coaster. There was a stage where we were paying like Katie McDermott 12 grand, and then we thought, right, there's no return on investment here. We need to go back to the gifting. And what we actually found was, when you done gifting, you were giving it to a different type of influencer. You were giving it to one, either they love the Essence Vault or Thompson Carter, blah blah blah. They love the Essence Vault. They just want free product. That's what they want. Or the second one is, it's influencers that have maybe learned videography. They just want more videos to progress, and they just want gifts to be able to do that. And they're the ones that put the effort into the videos. Like we paid once 5 grand, and they send a static picture of them going smiling with the bottle. Not even tagging the brand, like, and you're going like, we've just paid you 5 grand, put a bit of fucking effort in.
Not on them, like. And
they don't care, because they've got, and literally you would have seen it in some of the pictures, they've got parcels stacked up to shoulder length of brands, like massive brands like ASOS and all that. They don't care about your brand. Like you may have paid 10 times more than ASOS, but they this is just easy money for them. And once we went back to free, the quality of influencer, like the videos and stuff, really rose, and so we don't pay.
And like, what would your advice be to like say someone who's like looking at like influencers and stuff, like, and maybe has a small budget? Because I think it's easy, like even like the big influencers over here and like the big stations and things like that, like the money's crazy, but like people don't actually know they're not going to get a return. It's like they see the big name and the numbers and the followers, and they're like, oh, this is bound to work. Like, I mean, definitely, like, look at Ekin and Be Perfect, massive, great fit, done really well. Like, I think it just needs to be done properly. Like every brand, like one thing that we do is, first of all, check if the followers are fake, like Social Sprout, all them sort of apps. Check if the followers are fake. What's the engagement? Get a good read, and like Shopify's got a great app for it, Shopify Collabs. You can really see what the engagement rate is. If they've actually done it with Shopify Collabs before, you can actually see what they've returned. So it's a fantastic tool to be able to do that, but the amount of creators on there is very small. So if you're doing it for like someone that you think is a great fit for your brand, there's you almost need to put together a proper strategy for it. So if you are paying big money, right, make sure you're not just asking for a video. So you need you need 2 videos over the space of 2 weeks, so people can first of all see you using it. Second of all, you're doing a reaction video of, say, like if I'm saying, oh, I'm using the Essence Vault, lasts all day, and the bottle has still got the lid on it, and it hasn't been used, you're like, fuck off. But then 2 weeks later, the bottle's half empty, and you're going, oh, like I actually have used it, last all day, compliments galore, that's going to work. But then like further, ask them to change the link in their bio to you for that 2 week period. You'll pay a bit more, but you'll be able to get use out of that influencer. Make sure you get usage rights for the video. Any influencer that asks for usage rights is it's a shitty move. Like, you've paid for the video, you should get usage of it. I would try and get as much. If you don't get instant ROI, find a way to sort of make that the longevity of being able to use that more. A big one at the minute is whitelisting. So if you ask a creator on TikTok to post a video for you, you can actually get up to I think it's up to a year now, where you can say, right, well, we'll run ads to your video on your account, which means you'll see it all the time. Like Salt and Stone do it massively for them. No, but like I know what you're on about. Like, you do it. It's like more organic in a way, because like people are used to seeing that influencer, and it's not like the Essence Vault's brand popping up with their name.
But it also benefits the influencer because the ad actually goes to their account, which means they can get more followers. blah blah blah. People watch other videos and stuff, so you can really use that as a negotiating tool to bring the cost down in some cases. Like we've had ones that have asked for £1,000 for a video, and then once we say whitelisting, they're like, oh no, we'll do it for free if you spend X. So as long as you run £5,000 behind that ad, we'll do this ad for free.
Because they're going to get kickback from that little benefit then.
Yeah, but that's still sort of, it's a lot of brands are using it, but in terms of the influencer, you need to also like give them some stats behind that. Say, look, the last one we ran £10,000 behind this, and it gave the follower an extra 1,000 followers. Then they're like, oh yeah, I'll do that, because that's not what they crave. It helps them. Do you know? It helps them grow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose going back to the Essence Vault then, so like COVID, like what was that sort of progression like during that period from like you're saying about taking your family and helping you out, like what was that growth like over there?
Oh, crazy, like it was mad. We went from like 2 staff to 30 staff within 2 weeks. It was hard because obviously main ingredient of perfume is ethanol, it's alcohol, so we couldn't get any because it was all being used for hand sanitizer. So we had to jump through a few loops there, but naturally we only sold on the weekend, and then we shut the website down on Sunday night, had to pack the orders for the full week, and then reopen again on Saturday. So like we could have been, if we had enough ethanol and sort of the cash flow to be able to get all these staff in, we could be 10 times bigger today, because that's how easy it was. It was literally like we didn't pay for any creative content. It was just the same ads. We just turned them off on a Sunday night, turned them back on a Saturday morning, and they ran again, and like talking like £2 CPAs the whole time, same ads. It was mind blowing how easy it was.
You were saying that like at the start you were spending like maybe £100 a day when it's sort of taken off. Like how did that scale over the time?
In the early days, it was in the early days we'd actually went with, before sort of COVID, we had used like this Welsh agency who ripped the arse out of us. They were awful. I took it in house and done it myself from about March. It was actually it was a founder course, how to run Facebook ads. Just implemented all that. They had an email one as well. Email's massive for us. Implemented all that, and it just became easy. We used a few agencies here and there, but naturally they were all disappointing until Soar With Us, who Ollie, founder of it, is our CMO now. Yeah, they're fantastic.
I think that's an interesting one. Like Soar, like for people who don't know, like Soar With Us is like massive in e-com, like, and they've worked with like some of the biggest brands, like. Yeah. But like, what was it with them? Like, if for anyone listening, maybe, because like you probably know better than anyone the amount of agencies that would have reached out to you. Like
in terms of like there's agencies for everything. There's agencies for wiping your arse. Do you know? It's like you've got CRO agencies, email, copywriting, landing pages, ads, creative. There's agencies for everything, and we've unfortunately used them all. Yeah. So we do tend to know like the best partners to work with, and there's very few that we still work with today. But Soar With Us comes out on top every time. Like it's like the brands that they've like taken from loss making to multi-millions within a click of your fingers is nuts. Really, really strong agency, and honestly for Facebook ads, TikTok ads, wouldn't use anyone else.
And like, is there anything like from your bad experiences that you look back now and you're sort of like, oh, how did I not spot that? Like,
absolutely, yeah. I think like even most agencies, like one of the, we've only really started doing it recently, but if we feel as if something can be better, we just ask another agency to audit like something. So as it landing pages, right, let's go to such and such, right, look at our landing pages, what's wrong with them? And they say, oh, this and this. Like, right, we will work with you. Do you know, and we'll drop whoever we're with. Because if they're not doing what we're paying them to do, then, you know, it's a dog-eat-dog world in that respect, because you're supposed to be specialist at this. So how can you do something so simple wrong? Do you know, we need to work with someone better. And it just tends to be a lot of agency relationships, they become very stagnant very quickly because they put all the work in and there's lots of agency courses and stuff like this. You put all the work in the first month, get the client happy, and then you just fuck off to the next account and just leave it. You know, go right down to the bare minimum to how that performs, and then they leave. They move on to the next client, pretty much leave you to an intern or something like that, and that happens everywhere. So it's keeping on top of it as well. But naturally, if you've got a gut feeling that an agency's not performing, and you do, it's a two-way street, because brands, do you know, if like Soar With Us has worked with clients where you maybe write them a bad review on something that's like, kids, you're charging £8 for shipping. Do you know, you can't even get £8 shipping. Do you know? So there's other reasons for stuff not working. But the Facebook agency usually gets the brunt of it.
Yeah, like I've worked in the agencies myself, and it is sort of like like there's definitely good agencies, and I feel like they do get a bad name, like the quote, "Oh, I've been burnt by an agency before" type of thing. But
100%.
like,
But you can buy like really big influencers sell courses for £500, and like if someone's just out of uni, spend £500 in this course, they all of a sudden are an agency. Of course they're going to get a bad name. Like they're not an agency, they're just a freelancer.
yeah.
Do you know? But they call themselves an agency because that's the cool thing to do at this time. Now don't get me wrong, again, there's like we've worked with, like I think our copywriter at the start, we had worked with him, he was 19, like, and he was like, if you looked at him you thought he was 12. The stuff he could write was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like and so don't judge every book by its cover at the same time, but yeah.
But it's getting harder though. Like it is getting, like, because talking to people who are running businesses themselves, and like talking to people just in general, especially throughout the past year. Like I know a couple of people who are running businesses, and all we talk about is I've been approached by X. They get approached by a different agency every week, and every week there's another one rearing its head, and like it's tough because people would ring me or like someone that they know, and they're like, right, I've been approached by this agency, they're going to do X, Y, and Z, and it is tough because now there's so many to like weed through who's good, who's bad. And obviously you can only go off your experience, if that makes sense, but I find at the minute you're just nearly like you're looking at stuff and being like, I don't know how to, you don't know until you know, like you don't know until you go for them. And
I mean, in my opinion, the best place for that sort of thing is Twitter or X now. Like follow a few sort of, you can really gauge of how well a brand's doing on Twitter. And like people do reach out to me all the time on Twitter and say like, I'm struggling with landing pages, who does yours?
Yeah.
And you just tell them, like, there's not really, unless they're a competitor, you just tell them, because like there's enough for everyone to eat. Like you selling clothes online isn't going to impact my fragrance sales. So it's like just always ask like who you're using and get recommendations that way. Like I don't think we've ever taken on an agency from an inbound message. It's always been through your recommendation
research,
and that's like anything. It's like going on, like there's some massive sort of people on Twitter, and they all answer their DMs, like Ridge Wallets, Sean from there, you message him, sometimes he replies. It might be some Davey Fogarty from the Udi in Australia. He replies to nearly every single DM. Like I might have, as our CRO agency rubbish, I'll message him saying like, you're massive, who does yours? And that's how we get most of our partners.
LinkedIn's pretty good as well. Like I even think if you're just starting out in terms of value, like you're saying Twitter, but LinkedIn, like some of the Facebook ads, the guys on LinkedIn I follow, like the stuff they put out, it's unbelievable.
I always shares all of our stuff on LinkedIn. But no, it is to me. I think like LinkedIn still is full of fluff. Like if you've seen, I'm sure I won't mind if you've seen the stuff he shares on LinkedIn, it's very informative, and I know it's real, but it's too well written in terms of like 90 other LinkedIn posts are nearly the same. But the difference is Ollie's got a little bit more of a personal brand where he can do that, whereas like Bob down the street's writing this big long LinkedIn message about how I've X'd this client sales in such and such days, and it still says the same stuff as Ollie does, hasn't got the personal brand, but it gets the sales because of the results that they're stating. And naturally they aren't, like a famous one for Shopify dashes is a brand that does drops. So obviously, if someone has done £10,000 a day and it's a 50,000% increase, you say, 50,000% increase this sales. It's like, dickhead, they've been out of stock for 30 days. Of course, you're going to do it when they've got stock in. So it's still very. Twitter is where them sort of guys chill out. It's where they respond to other tweets. So you can get sort of an insight that way. Whereas, like I do it even today. Like if I'm struggling with something, I'll ask on Twitter, and you'll get maybe 10 responses. You get a few sales pitches in your DMs, but you can get from the responses where they're openly sharing how they fixed this in the past. You're like, I want to work with you. Back
to like you sort of mentioned about the copywriter guy, like in recruitment's a big thing I'd like to get into. So like you touched on like SOAR with us and stuff, but like what are some of the big hires you made that like really made a difference in the business growing?
At different stages, I'm a big believer of, as a founder, you need to be okay at everything, because you need to be able to weed through the shit of what is shit and what's not. So like Facebook ads, I would have said I'm pretty good at Facebook ads, so I was able to be aware of Ollie being better than me at Facebook ads. And that was the whole way through. Like email marketing, done it myself, found an agency. I was like, oh, they're really good. I know that because I can tell sort of the lies that they usually tell and sort of thing. So I was able to gauge that. But in terms of like recently, we hired one of the operations managers from Royal Mail as our COO, and like massive difference within 2 weeks. Like our biggest hire, I would say probably our biggest hire yet in terms of like coming in and fixing everything that was wrong. Because at a certain stage, you have to say, right, well, we're doing this okay. I know it can do 10 times better, but I don't know how it can be 10 times better. Do you know, until recently, we were quite linear in terms of, you know, there was, you know, from dispatch worker to me, there was very few like lines of management. So it was like, if they were slacking or maybe not doing as much, then it would have got to me for me to fix. Do you know, and that needs to be a layered system. And it has been layered very well for the last maybe 2 years. But when she came on, it blew everything out of the water. Like every person is like our old sort of packing rate would have been, say, 140. It's not up to 200. Do you know, like our parcels out the door has doubled. Do you know, but before that we're like, oh, fuck, we need to hire double the amount of people. Obviously the cost associated, but the space as well. So we're like, well, we need to double this as a warehouse. Whereas she's come in, I was like, no, this space is fine. We can do it here. And been able to, like, she reduced our dispatch wage bill by about 40% within like 4 weeks. Like that's not by letting anyone go, by not needing to use an agency for a staffing agency, or not needing to hire casual staff or overtime, just by the staff that's there. We're just at massive.
It's improving processes really, like.
Yeah, and it's really like big believer of like putting that back into other areas. So like that saving there goes straight to Ollie to then activate YouTube or spend more on TikTok ads or put effort into TikTok lives, which we just started. It's doing really well. But without that saving, we would have said, oh, fuck, we don't really have the budget to then hire 2 more people only for it to flop. Yeah. So, but now we can go and take risks. We can launch new products and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How would you say your own personal job role has changed throughout the years? So obviously you started off, you were making the perfumes and everything, but
it's very hard to let go of that sort of thing. Like I was probably making this happened at every stage. I was maybe making the perfume for too long, where I should have trained other people to do it and trusted them. But I think nowadays I'm more focused on new products, new brands. That's my day-to-day focus. Again, should have been maybe a year ago that should have been my focus, but we generally, for a few years there, we were so busy that we were maybe about every stage 20% busier than what we should have been. Do you know, so orders were maybe being delayed too much, or do you know, we were pushing revenue rather than profit for too long. But it's all about them key hires make such a difference, because you can hire. You need to hire fast and like, or move on faster. Do you know? So it's about training them people to take that load, and then, you know, make sure as a founder, make sure you're always about 80% level of impact, you know, in terms of your working day. And then looked, right, well, I've spent 2 hours a day on this. Who can I hire to be able to take them 2 hours away to give me my 2 hours back? And we continue to do that, and now, you know, new brands and new products is my focus.
Yeah, you find yourself difficult to stay out of the warehouse and getting
confident now since the COO started. I don't need to, but beforehand,
is that a good thing? I suppose it's important to have someone you can actually trust.
Yeah, I mean, it works both ways. Like I you always still need to be looking at it in terms of like, what can I improve, or but actually nowadays it's like, right, well, if I go here, I'm fucking up, so I'll just leave it to her. And that's a big learning curve personally, because, you know, not a perfectionist, like, but I always wanted to make sure it was good enough to be able to sort of for the customers buying. Our Trustpilot is something that we protect with everything. So like, we're the highest reviewed fragrance brand in the UK, and that's like all the big brands as well. So that's something that sort of, it's our biggest selling point as well. So if I let that slip, then all I lose is his biggest sort of pull as marketing. So, but key hires, giving them sort of the trust, but at the same time, if they're not pulling their weight, then you need to make a decision.
Have you had to make some difficult decisions?
Unfortunately, same thing again, sort of, you know, 6 months too late sort of thing. But it's probably like, you know, you start to say to yourself, time sort of loses the structure, because you're like, oh, well, they've been here for a year, so, you know, maybe, you know, give them another 3 months, and that becomes 2 years, and you're like, oh, I should have done this a lot sooner.
There's sort of a relationship building there. Is there, you know, more friendship that you don't want to let go of them?
Yeah, it sounds like it's frowned upon in the space, but like a lot of people do think it's a massive family, do you know, in the company, and not in the ways that people sort of they usually complain about it. But you know, we do care for the staff. We do a lot of charity events, that sort of thing. So it's hard to sort of move someone on. It's definitely something I don't like doing, because you feel as if you failed yourself, because you're like, I hired this person thinking they're going to be this, and they haven't. But unfortunately, it's just something that happens.
Was it like a process you've changed in terms of like fixing that, or is it just being more aware of what's happening? Like,
I think it's just something that you just learn. You know, you don't really know what to look for until you've went through what to look for. You know, it's yeah.
What's the journey been like from, like, obviously you said you worked in a phone shop, and kind of then to managing, like, being the boy over like a massive company? Like, how do you feel as that kind of impacted you? Because it seems like
a lot of grey hairs.
Yeah, you're sitting beside me, so it's but like how it seems like a bit of, like, you've obviously seen a lot of fast, you know, good pace of growth. And for a lot of people, that can be quite overwhelming to, you know, go from one person, you know, making stuff in their garage or whatever, to then managing 20 people to 30 people to...
do you know, it's probably a bad thing, but I'm very short-sighted. Do you know? Right. So it's like, I never really look past the next 2 months, sort of 1-2 months. So it's like, it's a funny thing, because it's always, every Christmas Eve is like the first time you sort of, everyone's away from the warehouse, and you look around and think, fuck, this has grown massively since last year. You know, so there's never really been a chance to sort of reflect. I mean, I do get imposter syndrome quite a lot, because, you know, you're getting on meetings with like directors of Every and Royal Mail and stuff, and you're like, fuck, I shouldn't really be speaking to these guys. You know, I would have packed their orders on the floor a year ago if I could have. You know, so it's I don't really think about it, to be honest. Try not to, sort of, because at the same time I'm pretty pessimistic that, like, tomorrow it could all be gone. Yeah. Do you know? So I try to not think about it, really. Yeah. Not really a good answer to that.
No. I think a lot of people put, like, a lot of pressure on themselves, if that makes sense, to, like, really, you know, make something work and it's obviously good for, like, a personal growth side of things, but it's quite good to hear that, you know, you're, like, the realistic side, because a lot of people would have probably just give an absolute bullcrap answer in terms of like, oh, I've went through this personal development journey and worked with X, Y, and you just kind of see through it.
I mean, it's like, it sounds bad, but like that personal development, also that sort of things, you'll develop personally if you just fucking fix the problem. Yeah. Do you know? So it's like, how can we, like, you know, there has been massive problems the whole way through, like, but 2021 we nearly went bankrupt. We pushed too hard in the Q4, massive VAT bill, you know, and I fucking cried into a pillow, like, but you had to just get on with it, because you're like, right, well, if I don't deal with this now, then the problem's going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. And that goes through everything. It's like, if, you know, if the Essence Fuel's doing really well, it's like, right, well, really good that it's doing well, but how can it be better? Because if we don't try and improve it when it's doing well, then if it starts to slip down, it's going to be harder to be able to push on. That, like, works with everything. If you're taking finance sort of thing, they're not going to lend to you if you're on a downward spiral, but they are going to lend to you when you're on a growth. So how do we keep that growth journey, albeit very sustainable, but how do we keep it up at the same time? You know? Yeah.
How, like, what have been the main things that, like, obviously, like, following on from the COVID, that you've kept the growth going? Like
we always try things first. Do you know, like, I think we were like the 7th brand in the UK to run ads on TikTok. And that just fell in my lap. Like, it was actually a tweet. Someone tweeted, and I was like, look, do you have a TikTok rep? And they're like, oh yeah. It's like, right, perfect, get in there. And yeah, so our CPMs on TikTok are like one of the lowest in the UK, but it's because we've spent so much the whole way through. Do you know, like, we were one of the first to at the start of UGC trending, like, we were the first to sort of care about the hook rate, or do you know, the click-through rate of the video and stuff like that. So it done us the world of good when everyone else caught up, but it's like finding that next thing. So, like, it sort of went full circle. Like, YouTube's became sort of the new shiny object in sort of the D2C space, where no one would have spent money on YouTube before. it was all just like sofas and mattresses and stuff like that. But it's like, right, well, it does work, but we just need to find out how it works.
Yeah.
That's sort of what we're focused on now.
How have you found like the change in creative? Like you sort of talk, I know like UGC is like a fucking overused term now, but like
it's dying off now. Like we're finding that them sort of videos, like people know they're fake. So like I think the last sort of spike in that's the whitelisting. Whereas it gives you that 2 seconds in front of the customer before they realise it's an ad. So like, but in terms of all like generic UGC, like we're finding that it is starting to sort of die down. Like static ads doing fantastic for us at the minute.
That's one thing I don't think it's talked about enough. Like static, like I think a lot of people obsess over video now, and like it does work, but like static's
strong, massive for us. Like I think it's like it comes from agencies though, because they can make more money by making 10 UGC videos than they can 10 statics.
Yeah.
Do you know, you can, like Canva nowadays with AI and stuff, like you can make 10 banging ads on Canva for 20 quid a month.
It's the narrative as well. Like again, back I think we're giving agencies a hard time here. But like,
I know,
like
sorry.
you said it there. Like the narrative of UGC being huge and like, oh, it's gonna 10x or do whatever. You're gonna get the best click-through rates and all. Like it benefits them, but like people sometimes maybe don't see that. Like,
yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I know we're slamming agencies a lot, but agencies have been crucial the whole way through, because you know, if we're doing everything okay, then it's like, right, well, how, like, what's, first of all, like, right, let's ask on Twitter, what is the natural open rate for your welcome flow? It should be 80%. Right, well, fuck, ours is only 50%. That means we need to look for an email agency, because we don't know what we don't know. So like email agencies have unlocked that next level of growth. Like at the minute, me and Ollie are looking at whitelisting agencies to manage that whole process, because like the next step of the whitelisting is going to articles. So it's like, right, we need to approach an agency that runs article accounts to be able to then, they write the article for you, copyright it properly, and then they go from Facebook video to article website, Facebook video through a whitelisting profile to an article website, then they click through the article to get to your website. And that seems like normal sales is like, right, well, that's not going to work because you need as little steps as possible. But in reality, it gives the customer an extra bit of confidence to then buy from your brand.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's becoming, it's like we always go with, we look at the US. US is usually about a year ahead of UK. So that's what everyone's using in the US. So we're trying to use it.
When you said that, I would have thought the extra clicks, like, do you know?
Yeah, it's mad because it's like, it's choice paralysis as well. When a new customer comes onto the Essenceville, there's 170 fragrances. Yeah, what the fuck do I pick? But the article will say, oh, the best 5 cents for summer, so they know what 5 to buy. So then when they come on the site, they actually make less clicks because they've already got all the information they need. Yeah, you know, from the video, like what perfume she using in that video. Right, the article then says these 5. Right, perfect. I know I need to pick from these 5 fragrances because Sandra in that video says that that's what I want.
That's a class point, actually. Like, but that's one thing I wanted to ask you is like the amount of SKUs and stuff you have. Like, how do you manage the promotion of that? Right? Like,
no, it's hard. Like anyone that sort of any system you can use. Like some of the WMS systems are like 30-40 grand a month, so like they're very high end. Naturally, they never usually work 100%. So it's like, right, well, I'm paying this money. When I can use that money to hire 10 people and they can manually count everything for a lot less and be a lot more in control. We ran out of stock massively in January. Like we had 75% of the website out of stock because we oversold in Q4, but we also mismanaged stock. Yeah. And that, like, if we didn't have sort of short-term fixes in place to be able to carry us over to what, like now, like we would have been crippled because you just can't go like a month without selling it.
I suppose that's the benefit though, manufacturing it yourself. Like even though you just went out of stock, like for other companies that would be like fucking nightmare. Like having to wait
yes and
months,
no.
like.
It's good that we manufacture, but then like all of our products use the same glass bottle. So if we run out of the glass bottle, we're fucked. Yeah. Do you know? And that has happened like 3 or 4 times in the past where like our glass manufacturers maybe has miscommunicated and they've given us our PO early, but we think there's another one coming, but there's not. And then now we have to buy products from 10 times the price from Europe to try and carry us over.
What sort of a backlog would that cause if you didn't have the likes of a bottle or something you had to just order? Like how long does it take?
For glass bottles, you can do it 2 ways. You can buy off sort of a middleman, they might have stock. So if you're getting like 10,000, they might have that. But if we order sort of once a quarter split into 3 shipments.
Mm-hmm.
So like we'll place a Q1 PO, and like some of it will come in January, some in February, blah blah. That sort of size, like you're talking 6 months. You have to place that in.
Fuck.
Yeah, so you're royally screwed if you mess that up. And we have done in the past, like.
How's like things they got? Have you got an example of that, like that's affected the business? Like
Glass balls, yeah. Like last, not 3 Novembers ago, not 2 Novembers ago, we the same thing happened. We were doing really well. We asked our glass supplier, right, can we get an extra PO? And they're like, yeah, no problem. They sent us a load of bottles. Great, sold through them. We said, look, when's the next one due? It should have been here last week. And she said, no, that was the one we shipped in August. And we're like, fuck, we had no stock for Q4. So like we had, I think for a full 30 days, all I was doing was ringing every glass manufacturer in Europe, UK, China, America, and just scraping together what we could. But we overspent by about 400 grand because we had to get them. We ended up air freighting glass from India to be able to get it here in time to sell. And like, imagine air freighting a 40-foot container of glass.
Jesus.
Like, it's not the lightest thing in the world.
No. What sort of expense did that add, like per product? Like,
well, we didn't change the
break it
price. We
down.
kept them the same, but like,
Yeah, but in terms of loss on it, were you taking a loss on the product then?
No, we weren't taking a loss, but the 400 grand, on the smaller bottles were pretty much break even.
Yeah. So in comparison to, if you want to, maybe you don't want to disclose profit wise, how much do you return on per bottle?
Could be anything from 20% to about 55.
So it's big hit. It was a big hit then.
Massive hit. But we had a few of them. Like the same thing happened with our fragrance oils. We mismanaged that. Had to get it here faster. It means we can't really barter with price.
Yeah.
So like we're paying maybe the same price when we order 10 kilos than when we're in 100 kilos. But if we're always asking for it on Friday, we can't really turn around and go, oh, hold on a minute, can we get this price cheaper? Like they're going to say, well, you need it tomorrow, so no.
Yeah,
whereas so if we're ordering it so far in advance, then we can turn around to the supplier and say, right, we don't need this for 3 months. What can you do in price, or we'll go somewhere else. We've got the time now to then say, right, let's look for other suppliers and stuff like that, which we've never had the time to. But now we are, and we have made sort of massive savings across the business.
Yeah, it's obviously just from scaling everything up to.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. Like you're getting all these sales, but then you're struggling to keep up with the demand.
Yeah.
And then like some of our suppliers were still charging us the surcharges from COVID, where like it's an extra 200 quid for a shipment because COVID. That was the same thing, COVID.
Yeah.
Then it was Russia and Ukraine. Like, well, I don't have a product that's from Russia and Ukraine, so I don't know why I'm paying more for it. So eventually now we've been able to go back and say, well, hold on now, we get pallets from England for 50 quid. Why are you charging 300 quid for it? And then they go, oh, sorry, and change the price. It's mad.
Chancing their arm. One thing I wanted to chat about was the copycat brand sort of thing. Like fragrances does seem to be like quite a competitive space. How have you found that and like managed to like stay like on top sort of like? I
think before we were around, there's only about one other one in the UK. They chose to raise the price. I think they sort of seen, right, we're the only one that's raised the prices more. We came sort of straight underneath, and that was during COVID and stuff, so they couldn't really be reactive in terms of, oh shit, they're taking our market share, let's get this stock in, blah blah. So we came in at a good time. Now I think there's a new one slandering us on TikTok every week. It's like, oh, this is shit, let's buy this. And it's like, we're the biggest in the UK for a reason. Like I like to think we're really, really good at the product and stuff. But yeah, sort of we're at the stage now where all of them coming sort of raises our profile too, because we've been spending on Google for so long that if you type in inspired fragrance, we always come up first. But that's because of the longevity of SEO and all that stuff, where we're still on top anyway. So if they're increasing the search term for the niche in general, we seem to do well in sales as well. Like one of our biggest competitors ran a TV campaign, and our sales went up by 30%.
No,
like, cheers. So yeah, that was good. But competition's healthy. Like I don't say at the time when there's a TikTok video of saying this is rubbish. But in general, it pushes us on as well. Like there was a stage last year where we didn't launch a product for 14 months. Now we've got new candles coming, a few other products, electric diffusers launching. That all came from them lighting the fire under ours, where we said, right, well, okay, we've got this now, but we need to do this to keep it. Sort of thing.
Speaking of new things, you've a couple of new brands as well.
Yeah.
Like, how's that process been? Like, sort of taking a step away from the Essence Vault and like focusing on other projects?
I mean, the main point of that was sort of like looking at what we built for the Essence Vault. So we had the creative department, we had the sort of the manufacturing, the dispatch and all in house. So it's like, right, well, we can launch a new brand for relatively cheap. Like, so what else do we want to launch? And we did it last year with a skincare brand, and it fell flat on its face just because, we didn't get the right creators. We didn't, the products weren't the best, the branding wasn't the best. But we learned a lot from it in terms of, right, well, we just can't launch anything and just expect it to sell because it's worked with the Essence Vault. So we went back, sort of knuckled down on the new product development, like sort of structure and how we launch products, and it has to fit so much criteria before we can launch it. And that's, we like to only make brands that we use personally. So it's like, Thompson Carter, higher end fragrance, packaging is brilliant. It's up there with like Louis Vuitton, Dior, but it's a lot cheaper. But we don't really mention price because it still has to be that luxury element. So they're all ones that we'd be interested in buying ourselves, which helps us with like the ICP, like the ideal customer. So we can say, right, well, the ideal customer persona for this brand is this, and I know that because it's me and I want to buy this.
Yeah.
So it makes us easier. It makes it easier for us to be able to launch products. But yeah, sometimes it takes away from the Essence Vault, but at the end of the day, if we have 5 or 6 profitable brands, it's going to be worth more than just having the Essence Vault at, double the revenue.
Yeah. Are you confident, like, it's a weird one, like, doing more, but, like, are you confident, like you just said about the skincare brand not working, but, like, is there, like, a way, like, is there, like, sort of non-negotiables you have in terms of, like, if I'm launching a brand, these are the things that it needs to work?
Yeah, so not so much for brands. So the brand's subjective. Like, it's like, right, well, what I like you might not like, or you might think it's shitty looking, blah blah. But I mean, what you can do is sort of we run a few things through surveys. So when we're launching Thompson Carter, for example, like, well, what's the point of the brand, right? So the point of the brand is the Essence Vault's here, but there is a fragrance niche where people want to buy fragrance at about £100. So what's the difference? Naturally, the ingredients are more expensive in Thompson Carter, but the packaging is far more expensive than the Essence Vault, because the Essence Vault's built around the customer wanting as much as possible for the little price. So that's where you drop the expensive bottle, expensive packaging, celebrities, all that stuff gets stripped from the Essence Vault. And it's like, right, well, these people want the fragrance and that's it. Whereas Thompson Carter's like, you're going to treat yourself, fancy box, unboxing experience, comes with a few free gifts, great for yourself. Do you want to gift it? People do gift the Essence Vault and great, but Thompson Carter's like a little bit more high end in terms of, you maybe feel a bit more comfortable gifting it, sort of thing. Liquid London was it follows through a process where, like, COGS, the cost of goods has to be at a certain point, because we know that we gauge that, right, this is going to cost maybe 40% in cost per acquisition online, right? So that needs to be that. The product has to be this cost. This has to be the product profit margin, which is 0 for the first 2 years. We sort of base it off. So this is where the product needs to be, and then we compare it to others in the niche, right? We only do it if it has a unique selling point. So what does this have that doesn't have?
Yeah.
Right, well, it's half the price. The packaging's better, lasts longer. The brand's slightly more delicate, and that all builds in, and then goes on to, like, can we source this? Can we do it for the price that we think we're going to do? And then it builds from there. But naturally, we got it wrong with Sina Skin, but we learned a lot about it as well. In terms of, we launched a skincare brand with pretty much the same ingredients as 50 other skincare brands.
Yeah.
So we can't stand out. Then we're forced to only work on price, and that doesn't really work unless your product is far better than everyone else's. Where, like, if you're saying, if you use a certain deodorant and you use it for a long time, you sweat a lot, and now all of a sudden you don't sweat anymore, you're going to stay loyal to that brand because you're confident that works. Whereas if I'm coming in with a new deodorant, you're already wanting to use that, but what can I do better to make you switch?
Yeah.
So it has to have a few points where it keeps working.
Yeah. If, like, someone was listening and like what was looking to start a brand, or like maybe has just started one, like is that, like would that be one of the main things, is like what sets you apart, like and but then how do you get that across, like the creative side of stuff, something like you've obviously executed so well, like for someone starting out like that maybe doesn't have a big budget, like what sort of advice would you give them?
I've actually got a free course launching soon for, it's called how to start a brand in 72 hours or less. So it's like all like 10 key points of what you can do, and like number one is founder story. So it's like, right, well, how have you made this brand? There's a mushroom brand called Headstrong.
Right.
He does it brilliantly. So he just puts himself in front of camera. You know, he says that he's uncomfortable doing it, but it sets him apart. Like I named that mushroom brand, and there's 50 other ones. Yeah. Who, you know, I can name a few, but that's the one that stands out to me because his packaging's on point. You know, it's not the dearest. Just looks visually pleasing. But he gets in front of the camera, talks about his business problems or how good his product is or why it's different. But that's a lot of things that founders, and especially the bigger brands, like massive brands, just don't do, because some constant sitting in a 70-story building, he's not going to get in front of the camera. Whereas you're resonating with that audience a bit better. But there's loads of things you can do that just, you know, it's almost like when you're a new brand, you have to do everything that other people aren't doing. So TikTok Lives is massive at the minute. Like you can, for free, reach these customers, speak to them. You know, you can find out, well, why don't you want to buy? Is it too dear? Or, you know, you can really talk to them, as well, like literally talk to them. And that's a lot of things that brands don't do. Yeah,
TikTok's a big one as well. Even like some of the brands, like even just coming to my head, like I don't know if you've seen that TikTok or toothpick one.
Yeah,
the flavored toothpicks, and he was like giving them out to celebrities and all. It was like when you actually look at it, you're like, the fact that these have done what these have done is fucking mental. Like off toothpicks, like it's just being creative.
It's being creative, yeah. It's like I like to, you know, have a brand that only has a proper unique selling point. But when you do like TikTok and you've got a unique selling point, like you can reach 3-4 million people with a video, completely free, post it for free on your organic channel, and now all of a sudden you've got a lot of feedback. If not purchases, you've got a lot of feedback to make the product a wee bit. Is it cheaper? Is it too dear? Do you know? Do you sell a 20 pack but you need to sell 10 pack to be able to sort of get the price lower?
Yeah.
How, from your perspective, like, you know, you've launched multiple brands, you are involved in like a lot of facets of your business, and for someone listening who's like starting a business or has started a business and say they're like a year or two down the line, like what would be your advice be? Like, how, I know you said about half an hour ago, like whenever I asked you another question, that you're kind of you only really work 2 months in advance, but how do you not get like overwhelmed by everything? Because
I don't know. I enjoy what I do. Do you know? I think that's a big thing. Like if a big thing. I don't mind being uncomfortable. You know, I don't mind learning new things. Like a lot of people will think, right, I know everything. This is what I'm going to do. Like if I don't know a single thing, I'll put it on Twitter. I'll just ask the question on Twitter. Twitter, in my opinion, is free. Well, it's not anymore. Cheers, Elon. But you can get so much feedback or questions or anything. Like the first thing I would do is definitely don't buy a course. Like I think. And that's why it's free. But don't buy a course. Like Davey Fogarty's YouTube channel, everything's there. He has a free course as well, I think. But everything you need is on his YouTube channel. Like I think he's done nearly $1 billion in sales, selling fucking hooded blankets. Do you know? Like it's like the most, not the most basic product, but he really honed in on his product audience and was able to scale that in a country where it's sunny for 10 months a year in Australia. Do you know? So everything points towards the fact that shouldn't work, but it does for him. Do you know? So I would never think you know everything. Like I still don't know. I would say I only know about 20% of what I should know, but it's still 20% more than someone just sitting in the bedroom. Like just start now, and it might not be the best time to start a brand, but it's the easiest time to start a brand at the same time, because you know we're never going to get another COVID. We're never going to get another COVID, but you don't know what we'll get in 2 years' time when it's going to be. Is it going to be worse? Is it going to be? Do you know? Does shipping stop where shipping becomes 10 times more expensive? You just don't know. So like today is the best time to sort of go out there and get a brand started.
Even like the stuff with TikTok in the US at the minute, you're like, you fucking don't know if TikTok will be here in another 6-7 months. Like, and
that's why we can, like, we're spending money on Twitter, probably one of the only D2C brands doing it.
How you find that?
It's good. Like CPMs are dirt. They're so cheap. Like it's brilliant. The attribution and stuff isn't there yet, but in terms of, and this where it goes for anyone looking to start an agency as well. I would focus on the next big thing, like Twitter ads. There's no Twitter ads agencies at all. Whereas brands know even less about Twitter than they do about Facebook and stuff. So if you're able to go to them and say, look, I can activate this new channel for you, this is my cost, they're going to say, they'll say yes a lot more than they will for a Facebook ads agency because there's a lot less competition. Yeah. Do you know? And it's going pretty well, but still the platform, the ads platform's still not really there yet. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, it's interesting. I've done a bit on Twitter before and like just never really had much, like this was years ago, like, so it's interesting to hear you're trying it out now. What are you enjoying the most about the minute about your role? Like what are you really looking forward to doing every day?
New products is what I enjoy. Like I enjoy, like we go to, as mentioned before the podcast, we went to Cosmoprof last week, got some brilliant ideas, met some good suppliers. New products is what's exciting for me because I also think it's what would excite, like we've got 2 million customers on the Essence Vault, like they're crying out for new products and stuff, and finally we've been able to sort of give them it.
Yeah, and like what's next then? So like we've talked a bit about building brands, like how do you, like would you ever want to sell Essence Vault? Like how do you see things going in the next?
Few people have made offers and stuff, but I don't know, it would have to be the right price. I think like you hear of all them lottery winners that, you know, get 100 million and then they're bankrupt fucking a year later. I think I'd need to be doing something, so I don't know if it's I don't know. Yeah,
and is there any brand, like any brands, like who do you like take inspiration from, or like is there anything you're sort of like wouldn't mind trying that sort of industry, trying to get into that? Like?
Well, fitness is one that we're looking to get into with the electrolytes. In massive space. I just think the current ones that are there are doing it a little bit wrong. Some brilliant brands there, but I think they hone in on the fitness too much, where like there's a stat that I heard recently, it's like people have to drink, you know, to be healthy you have to drink 3 litres of water, but it's like, right, well, why do you have to drink 3 litres of water? It's to replenish electrolytes and magnesium and all that stuff, but 3 litres of tap water doesn't contain them things, but the headline is drink 3 litres of water. It's like, right, well, how can we make someone drink 1 litre of water, but if it includes the electrolytes for the daily, that would be enough. Do you know? And but the sort of brands in the space now are just focusing on like CrossFitters and gym goers and sports people, but in reality everyone needs it. Like it's like something to do with when people are tired, 80% of the time it's because they're dehydrated. Do you know? It's like just everyone's not I don't even drink enough water. But do you know, but at the same time it's like hydration's the biggest thing, and a lot of brands just sort of miss out on that key sort of reason why people take it. Yeah. Do you know?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't really do anything else you want to ask. No. I think that's a good place to end. Thanks so much for coming on.
No, thank you.
And giving us your time.
Pleasure.
And obviously we'll link everything in the bio if you're looking at everything.
Not that you need
it.
Very
much for these. Very nice. And the one thing I will say is I walked in the room and I knew you'd been here. I knew you were ready to do. I knew you'd been here because I walked in and I went, it smells nicer in here. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.